everybody, to the Good Place panel. I'm Mark Evan Jackson, I play Sean. I said that to make it clear that I'm not Clark Gregg. Now, there was one other thing I was going to do before I alone answer your questions. Oh, right. May I take a moment, please, to introduce you to some of my very favorite people on Earth. Please welcome Drew Goddard, Morgan Sackett, Michael Schur, Ted Danson, Kristen. Amongst ourselves for about 20 or 25 minutes. Then you will have the opportunity to ask questions. We assume your fandom for the show, in as much as you're here. And this is the best show on television. So we don't need a treatise on why you love it. Questions begin with words like how and why and when, and not like when I was 11. Like when did you decide to? So please keep those brief, because our time together is super limited. Emmy nominee Ted Danson. Is present. Okay. Ted and Kristen, you talk, there's a podcast, by the way, that you should check out. It's called The Good Place, the podcast. It's available where podcasts are available, which I assume means the internet. Ted and Kristen, you took the show, Mike pitched you this show years ago, and a big selling point for each of you, you've told me on the podcast, was one another.
Truth.
This isn't a Senate confirmation hearing, you can...
You said questions, which are why, what, how... coming. Yes, Ted and I met on a movie on a movie about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, and became fast friends, despite the fact that I super fanned him when I met him because I had just binge watched the first season of Damages, and I was obsessed with Arthur Frobisher, who was his character, and I told him in the lobby when I first met him, this might sound weird, but I am checked into this hotel as Holly Frobisher, the character name of your wife. And he was like...
I actually moved rooms.
Well, we became friends, and you were a huge selling point. I mean, Mike, you were obviously a selling point, and then hearing Ted was involved sealed my deal.
Actually, it was the other way around. I heard that you were involved, and no, seriously, and that was a huge selling point. But then... the real self.
That's true, that's true. We both want to work with Mike.
Are you pointing past Mike to me? Is that what's happening? Mike, this show shouldn't exist. And yet somehow it does. You've created the smartest, dumbest show on television. Why?
Great question, Mark. So from the beginning, the pitch was a little bit heavy, right? It was like it's about ethics and about what it means to be a good person, and it was a little scary. And when I pitched it to NBC, I said, you know, one of the characters is like is a moral philosophy professor, and he's actually going to sort of teach lessons about ethics and stuff. And they looked a little sweaty. And I actually said, don't worry, I won't make it feel like school. And then in the beginning of the second episode, Chidi's literally standing at a blackboard, and Ethics 101 is written at the top of it. And I remember seeing it in the edit bay and going like, so the goal has always been because that stuff can get a little lofty, and I understand it. I like to say that I understand it at, roughly speaking, a Wikipedia entry level. Like it's not my personal forte or anything. I didn't study it in college. I just like it, and I like reading about it. But it gets, oftentimes, Eleanor's reaction to ethics is oftentimes my reaction to it, which is like a little like, oh, this is so hard. Like, why is it so hard? So we try to balance it with like the dumbest fart jokes and stuff that we can think of, because as a viewer, I think if it were nothing but lectures on ethics, I think I would get kind of bored. So we use ourselves as the sort of litmus test for how dry it should be.
It works. I'm a fan.
Thanks, Mark.
Jamila.
No.
Jamila, your kiss with Manny was not your first kiss, but it also wasn't like your billionth kiss, was it?
Manny is my 7th kiss ever in this world. Not just on screen, my first ever on-screen kiss, but it's my 7th ever kiss because no one kissed me until I was 21. But even this,
hard to believe.
This is sad. This isn't going to make me come across well. But even though he was
So maybe don't say it.
Contractually obliged to kiss me on camera, I've still counted it in my number. But what a 7!
Darcy Carden. At face value, in the pilot episode of a show like this, there's a danger, a risk of the character of a Janet, not a girl, not a robot, being sort of one note. It has become the absolute opposite of that, and super nuanced and lovely. The question is, Janet or bad Janet?
Both. The answer is both. I guess I get to do both, so I don't have to make the decision. So screw you, Mark.
I was asked to do this. This goes for anybody. What one thing about the good place or the bad place do you wish existed in real life? Also, like, if there were one prop or souvenir from the show that you wish you could have, like, Will, do you wish you owned those needles?
I do not. I don't know, I think if I had a prop I could take home, it would probably be, there's this really great sort of deconstructed clown in a case called Patches Apart. And I think I'd just like take it home and put it in front of people's houses at night.
That's not good. Manny, did you have strong feelings about Florida before taking this tour?
Anyone here from Florida? Sorry, we're very sorry.
Yes.
But you guys get it.
Yeah. No, they're all great sports. I had no idea about Florida, to be honest, but it just coincided with how crazy the character was and how crazy the state is, I guess. So.
Do people yell Bortles at you on the street now?
Yes. Very much so.
And you've been to Jacksonville, right?
Yeah, great. Anybody from specifically Jacksonville? No? Good. Like, one in the corner, great.
Don't tell them what we said.
Please.
Mike, talk a little bit about the culture of the show. This is an interesting thing, and I think Drew and Morgan can weigh in on this as well. This is a very ambitious undertaking. There's a lot of visual effects. You've made that a character in the show. That's something that you said that you wanted to be a part of every episode, given the infinity of the good place or the bad place. There should be a lot of panic. You called Morgan at one point and said, "Get me a giraffe," for instance.
I've made that call several times, actually. Yeah. So here's the deal. The job of running TV show is very hard. It's essentially impossible. It can't be done. It can only be done if you are doing it in concert with about 40 other people. Morgan was the producer of Parks and Recreation. So when Greg Daniels and I were working on the show, we needed a line producer. We sat down with Morgan and we said, okay, so here's the deal. It starts with this group of people who are trying to fill an enormous pit in the ground. That's their goal, is like turn this pit into a park. So the first thing we need is an enormous empty lot, and we need to dig out an enormous hole in it that's just gonna sit there empty for potentially 7 years. And Morgan listened to it and went, okay. And we were like, this is amazing. Like, most people would have been like, thank you, this was a nice meeting, I have to go. And Morgan held down that crazy ship for 7 years, and he is the best producer in television. One of the really delightful things about him is knowing how miserably uncomfortable he is right now with me talking about him. It's making me want to just keep talking about him.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about
Drew, why don't you talk about Morgan for a second?
Another thing people don't know about Morgan, Emmy-nominated director.
Drew. Morgan hates, no one is allowed to know his birthday. This was a character trait we gave to Ron Swanson. No, we're not. On Ron Swanson on Parks and Rec, no one was allowed to know about his birthday. That's because of Morgan. One time, Dean Holland and I got Morgan a cake for his birthday because we found out when his birthday was, and we started, in a pretty empty office, there were only 4 people around, we started singing happy birthday to him and holding a cake, and he ran at Dean Holland and attacked him and threw the cake on the ground.
Morgan Sackett.
Wait, there's a point to this. There's a point to this, and that point, very obviously, is to embarrass Morgan, my friend. But it's also to say that the reason that this show works and is allowed to be as ambitious as it is, and we're allowed to do the kinds of stories we do and the insane things that we do and have giraffes running around and giant shrimp in the air and whatever else, it's because of this guy right here. So if you enjoy this TV show, it's not just Morgan. David Hyman, who's also a producer of the show, is also here with his son somewhere. And beyond that, we should take this opportunity to say thank you to the incredible team that Morgan has assembled of every department. It's a really weird show. We say things to our costume designers like, we need 300 identical blue and yellow stripy outfits for people to run around in, and they do the same thing Morgan did. They go, okay, and they write down. And it's the only reason this show really works is because of this team of people. So I'd like personally to say thank you right now here.
Morgie.
Thank you.
Whoa, he's so happy! That's the other thing about Morgan. He never gives approval, which is why we all come back to him, because as people who are comedians, all you want is for someone to laugh and to approve of your joke, and it's not gonna happen with Morgan. It's never gonna happen.
I call him Mona Lisa, because you can never really read his face. Am I fired? Should I?
Of my own volition, I'm going to move on. A phenomenon of this show that I've talked about with Ted and a few of you is that I get stopped by a lot of people, parents, who are able to watch this show with their families. Have you run into that? Have any of you? Are you here right now? That's unusual for a half hour of American network television that you can, I don't know, learn ethics as a family.
Especially when there's a robot with a wind chime penis.
Not a robot.
Somebody shut her mic off. She's going on.
Oh yeah, go Mike.
No, I was just going to say that I think that what there is that's dirty on the show is so cartoonishly silly, including the words being changed, curse words being changed to things like fork and shirt and stuff. So it's nice. It doesn't surprise me in some way though, because it's so, it's very brightly colored and it feels safe, I think, for, there are a lot of weird, like my son is 10 and there's a lot of kids like on his baseball team who watch it.
Does your son watch the show?
No. He watches YouTube basketball bloggers almost exclusively.
I don't know what to do with that.
I don't either.
This is the most pleasant place to come to work because there is such a culture of, put bluntly, no jerks. Do you, as the cast, do you remember your first day? Do you remember the first things that you shot, Darcy?
I think the first thing I shot was a couple days after you guys, and I think it was at Tahani's mansion. Yes, oh yes, I remember. It was a scene that was cut. But it was cool because I remember Drew and Mike do you remember this? You sort of did it on your iPhone for me to see.
Oh yeah.
Where is that? Anyway, and you were like,
it's on my iPhone. I got it right here.
Okay, great.
Everyone gather around.
But it was, in my mind, I was like, oh, this is how TV works? Like this, they're gonna act, these dudes are gonna like act out our scenes and show us every day? That will take so long. They never did it again. I would like to see it. And the scene between me and Kristen was cut, but
well, I have no memory.
You wanted to get drunk, and I explained that you could only get drunk if you like thought about it.
Oh, that's right. You could drink as much as you wanted until you thought about being drunk, and then you would be drunk.
Right, and I think it's in the extended cut, or maybe DVD or something, so buy it.
Excellent question. So buy it. Manny, you spent the first few episodes not speaking.
Oh yeah.
How was that?
I felt a lot of people looking at me thinking that this was the easiest job. And then I think once we did the first table read, they were like, what the fork is going on with this table? But that was actually very, it took a lot of weight off of me because I don't think any of them really heard me speak like that. So I don't know, it was really fun. It was really fun, if anything.
By the way, I was also Manny's 7th kiss.
What? What'd you say?
I was also Manny's 7th kiss. I forgot to say that earlier.
Really?
Yeah.
Sorry to his girlfriend who's here. Sorry. It was awful. We hated it.
I've kissed so many people.
Me too.
I'm feeling a lot of shame.
I am too. 7. I think I kissed 7 people in like junior
in the show.
What is wrong with me? And I've been married for a long time.
Emmy nominee Ted Danson. Whereas I think that many performances on the show were overlooked, yours has gotten attention because it's masterful. You are also in a position, sort of like in season 1, a little bit like Darcy with Janet, of there being a danger of it becoming one note. We never saw you alone because you would be twirling your mustache and giggling, conspiring against, having kept the secret. If you don't know the secret, I don't know why you're here. Ted, the performances you give, this show has what should be series finales, maybe 4 times per season. And the performances you give, I'm thinking specifically of when the train pulled away and they were all lying underneath it, and the camera crashes in on you and we don't know whether or not you're evil or on their side, and then you go, you guys! That, and when you say to Eleanor at the portal at the end of season 2, towards the end of season 2, that you figured out the trolley problem and it's about sacrificing yourself. Thank you, I guess is my question.
You're welcome. I don't know if I'm speaking for everybody, but it's when you say performance, I'm going, wait, what? Because really what we do is we show up, we say these astounding words in these astounding locations with our amazing bow ties, and you let the words play on you, and out comes a performance. It's not, I don't know how to take credit for anything on this show other than to say I am hitting my marks and I'm saying Mike's words, and it just is magic. So
That's a lie.
sorry, this is like Emmy time, and you have to adopt some false humility. It just rubs everybody wrong.
There is the truth. We recorded an episode of the podcast, which you should totally check out the other day, with Will and with Todd May, who's one of the philosophy advisors. I don't know if it will make it into the podcast or not, but I would like to let everybody know that Todd May, a philosophy professor, thanked Will for representing moral philosophy professors so very well.
Make it a question. I love it when he answers questions. Make it a question.
Will you tell a story about what Todd May said to you?
So we were doing this podcast, and Todd May said, "Hey man, thanks for making moral philosophy professors look so good." And that's about all that happened.
Will, I mentioned the trolley problem a moment ago, and you got shot in the face with a lot of like blood and guts.
Yeah, it was Rice Krispies and foam and like this Carol syrup and this. I remember one take in particular. I think it's in the episode. There's a lot of blood on my teeth because I happened to have my mouth wide open as soon as it went off, and a piece of foam went directly down my esophagus and into my being, and that was that was a special day. Special.
Can you ask Drew a question? Because I'm not sure why he's here.
Yeah, okay. Actually, I'd like to weigh in on that. I've sprayed a lot of actors with blood in my day. And I've learned, don't tell them what's about to happen, because then they might say no. And so we pulled Dean aside and directed him and said, don't tell Will what's about to happen, because maybe we'll get some chunks in his esophagus. And you can see it on screen. I believe that these are the rough edges of performance that happen. So it could happen to any of you, and I'd like you all to look alive.
Kristen Bell. Why? You've talked a little bit about that Eleanor Shellstrop and you are not the same person by like 10-20%. But you have said that like she says the things that you would love to say.
True. Yeah. Eleanor is the sort of like ticker tape in my head of nasty, sassy things that I not necessarily want to say, but I'm definitely thinking about anyone that I see. And I don't find I get good results in my life when I say that. And I'm looking for good results, guys. Looking for smiles and happiness. And so I don't say them, but I do share that sort of wicked, dark sensibility with Eleanor, just in the back of my brain.
Also, you should tell everyone the other similarity between you and Eleanor, which culminated in you giving me a present at the end of last season.
Well, so Eleanor is obsessed with mailmen, and I, in high school, for a good few years, had hanging on my wall this picture of this dude in biker shorts, biker underwear, and it said across the top, priority mail. And it was like a gas station postcard. And there have actually been a couple things in this upcoming season that were also similarities. But at the end of last season, when we had a lot of mailman stuff on the show, I framed it I thought it was about time it came down off my wall in my childhood bedroom, and I framed it and gave it to Mike.
Yeah, that's right. Now it's in my office. It's a shirtless gentleman from the 1980s, sitting on a bicycle wearing bicycle shorts and a mail bag, it says priority mail. That's what people see when they come to have a professional meeting with me.
Now, is it weird that you now have 2 of those? We're going to line up for your questions. While we do that, I'll ask one more. I don't know how we do that. Presumably there are microphones coming into the aisles and such. I recently read a comment on the internet, Mike, that said someone had re-binged the show and said, somehow the point of view of The Good Place has become my religion. Was that your intention?
This is phase 1 of a very long no, that's interesting. I don't know what that would even mean, really. There's the point of it was not to take a point of view, really, on what's right or what's wrong. It was to show different ways that you can take a point of view. And the fun part of it is to say, I mean, Ted has that line in the pilot where Eleanor says who was right, and he says everybody was like 5% right. The Jews were 5% right, and the Christians and the Muslims and the Buddhists and everything. And that was the sort of philosophy both of, in terms of like what the afterlife was like, but also what, when we deal with ethics, it was like, you read this stuff even if you're reading it at a Wikipedia level like I am, and there's my favorite like little moment in the ethics stuff is when Chidi is teaching utilitarianism in the first season. Eleanor has the reaction that was exactly my reaction when you first hear about utilitarianism, where it's like, well, you do whatever works the best. Your reaction is like, well, yeah, of course, right. That's the one. Let's do that one. This one's easy. And I don't have to like memorize rules or anything, and no one's yelling at me in German, and it's just great. But then you start to go through it, and you're like, well, here's all the problems with it, and it's very frustrating. So the point of the show is only to say, like, here's 50 different ways that people have thought about these problems. Choose whichever one works for you.
Outstanding. We're going to go to your questions now. We don't have a ton of time for this, so please do keep them brief. Make sure that they're questions without giant prefaces. Don't ask, like, can I give Mark Evan Jackson a hug? I get it. I'm a smoke show. Who has the first question? Please.
Hi there. Thank you all for coming. This question is for Kristen. My understanding from the internet, which we know we can believe everything on there, is that you don't actually eat shrimp. Is that true? And if so, what is the shrimp made out of?
Best question of the day. That call has been made now, and no matter what other questions are asked in this building, that's going to be the best one. I've been a vegetarian since I was 11. I have never actually had seafood of any kind, because I grew up in Michigan, which is not exactly the fresh fish capital of the world, because we've got Lake Erie and those fish have 3 heads, and you don't really care. And our prop department, who is lovely and amazing and always checks with you about what you want to eat, because they think about your wants and needs, they make these like little vegetarian shrimp that are essentially like, what are they, like rubber nuggets? They're like in the shape of a shrimp, but
Kristen, Morgan almost answered.
What?
Morgan almost answered.
They are disgusting. And we had to paint them to look more like shrimp.
Non-toxic.
Bushels of those things.
I did. I have eaten bushels of that. Yeah, they're like little rubber. I think they're like the Morningstar ones or something. I don't know. It's one of the brands that makes things like look a lot like meat, but you still don't eat it, which is confusing. But yeah, they're fake. They're vegetarian shrimp, and they're completely rubber. And if you dangle them, they like that. And they're not tasty.
Brought to you by Morningstar. Thank you. Next question.
Rubber nuggets.
Mike, have I ever told you that it was only last year that I realised that that picture of Doug Fawcett wasn't a young picture of you?
Yes. Did anyone else in the world think that? Jamila thought that Doug Fawcett, the guy in Michael's office who...
I'm not proud.
Correctly, 92% correctly. Jamila thought it was me. It looks nothing like me.
Sorry.
No, it doesn't at all, Mike.
Please.
Wow, what a lead up. Hi.
Hey, well done, man.
Yes. I've been a big fan of you guys, Ted, since CSI. Anyway, so when all of you die, do you think you're gonna end up in a good place or a bad place?
The question is, in real life, everyone up here, do they think that they're in-person, first-person themselves actually headed to the good place or the bad place?
Should we show it with our thumbs? Yeah. Ready? Think about it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. We all acted.
Alright, so my question is for Ted, and I know
Do you mean Emmy-nominated Ted Danson?
Yes! My question is for Emmy-nominated actor Ted Danson. I know you have been in a lot of different TV shows and movies, but I wanted to ask what it was like from playing Sam Malone to this more kind of, timid character that you play as Michael, and also what's it like to be relevant to a new generation of TV watchers?
Is that like an age shot? It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's actually a deeper question than just, Sam Malone, because Sam Malone was entirely about his penis, and we have come very close to establishing that Michael doesn't have one. It's kind of the perfect arc in life, don't you think? There goes that generation.
Hello, welcome, everything is fine.
Hi there. So my question is definitely, can I give Mark a hug? No, I'm kidding. So I'm a really big fan of the show, obviously, and Michael Schur, whenever people ask me what I want to do with my life, I say I want to grow up to be you. Low-key, because I just want to be a really awesome TV producer. So my question is, what was your inspiration for the show? And then for the actors, what was kind of, I guess, the special thing about the show that made you agree to be a part of it?
I'll answer very quickly because I think the actors' answers will be more interesting than mine, frankly. The inspiration for the show was a very basic sort of hobby-level interest in ethics and thinking that it would make a good show, that the search for an ethical truth would make a funny show. I know it sounds weird to say it, but it makes sense. Think about it. And then combined with a sort of like a daily game that I played with myself as I just milled around Los Angeles, which was assigning negative and positive point values to various good or bad things that people did. So if someone cut me off in traffic, I would think, and I've done this for years, I would just think like, you just lost 25 points, man, you're like, joke's on you, because you're going to hell. It's like low-level wishful thinking, I guess, but it was just like a slow burn of those two things combined, and it sort of led to this. But the actors' explanations of what attracted them to it will be far more interesting, I would say. So, Kristen, say something.
Well, you are definitely what attracted me to this. I have watched Mike's work, as we all have, for years and years, and just been affected by it, going like, wow, this is comedy, like this is so great. And then also knowing people who have worked with him and for him, because I only knew you peripherally, like I knew you were like not a murderer, but I knew people that worked for you and said that it's just the best time of all times, and truly that's what I want in my life. Like at this age, I find that I will pick projects based on what my day-to-day is. I want fans to like it and I want people to love it, but my experience on set is of the utmost importance to me, because I don't want to be miserable. I want to make something that's happy and joyful and that I have a good time doing. So knowing that I was working for you, I felt like, oh, I'm getting quality, I know it's going to be fun. Then you told me my #1 dude, Ted Danson, might be involved, and that Everything was positive, I guess. And then the script was just sort of icing on the cake. I'm like, and it's good! Oh my god! I got so lucky!
Manny, what drew you to this role?
I was broke.
Beat that, Darcy.
For us, the four down here, it's maybe different from Ted and Kristen. Maybe I don't want to speak for you guys, but for like as a struggling actor, you take whatever job you get. So it's a weird thing where I would have taken anything, but this was my literal dream job for years and years when I was trying so hard to get work. And anyone would ask like, well, what do you want to do? I would almost be like embarrassed to say because it felt too big, but I was like, I want to be on like a Mike Schur show with like a funny ensemble comedy where everybody loves each other and it's like the funniest thing on TV. And I was so broke.
Janet, bad Janet.
What?
Next question.
We have time for one more.
Oh.
This is going to be short and sweet. Will Veronica Mars get into The Good Place?
Yeah. She fights for the underdog. That's qualification enough, I think. If you're fighting for someone who doesn't have a voice or someone littler than you, that's grounds to get in. That's a ticket.
Thank you.
We can do one more question. Before that, I would like to remind you that there's a fan meetup at the Good Place Activation at 4 p.m. today. It's my understanding there are lots of Janets, bad Janets, and even some Jason Mendozas roaming around. We would love to see all of you there and, you know, take pictures and put them on, I guess, the internet. And also, please do. This is our time together is very, very brief, and there's a podcast.
Please hug Mark.
What's that?
I said, please hug Mark.
Oh boy. Please do check out the podcast. We're talking with writers and the cast and the producers and special effects and wardrobe and all the departments. This is the most interesting show ever devised. And Janet?
Love it. On the excellent Good Place, the podcast, Mark Evan Jackson
Hello.
says, I love you. He says that there's not a lot of blue sky between him and his character Sean, and something similar for Ted. So I was wondering, what's the opposite of that? Which actor is the least like their character on the show?
That's a great question.
This guy. Yes, this guy.
Yeah, I mean, no one in the real world is as dangerously stupid as Jason. So, and Manny's actually quite smart and like is a functioning human being. So, based on that, I would say it's got to be Manny.
Manny also throws like 10% fewer Molotov cocktails.
Yeah. He throws them, he just throws fewer, is what you're saying.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And Jason's hot, but Manny's hotter?
Yeah, for sure.
Mike, it's my understanding that we have,
Yeah, we have a surprise for you. So, we're gonna show you the first 2 minutes of season 3.
So, only if it's okay with you, though.
it is so sweet for all of us to be in a room full of such enthusiastic people for our show. Thank you so much. It's been astounding, really.
Ted Danson. Please do check out the activation, the fan meetup today at 4 o'clock. Please do check out the podcast. Season 2, September 27th. Season 3, rather. Season 2, I promise to watch. Before we get there. Season 3, September 27th. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking Jamila Jamil, Manny Asinte,